21 years old, booted out of college. I get this job at a car dealership, and I learned two things there. I learned sales and I learned leadership. Ooh. If you can get really proficient at those two skills, there's nothing you can't figure out.
You guys don't know what you're both good at yet if you haven't worked together yet. This was my first lesson on we're a team. If he is winning, I am winning. Figure out your roles, own your roles, respect each other, learn how to talk to each other within that, because it's really easy to be short or temperamental with your partner, and that will be the death of you.
Remember, adversity is your advantage.
Hey friends, cannot wait for you to check out this new episode of the CEO Show podcast where I interview my two good friends, Chris and Lori Harder. Now, Chris and Lori, they're mega entrepreneurs, event producers, and expert business coaches. So if you want to learn about entrepreneurship, leadership, and how to succeed through transition, you got to check out this episode. Hey friends, welcome back to another amazing episode. I have my two dear friends, Chris and Lori Harder. Chris and Lori, welcome to the show.
We're so excited to be here. We would be doing this for fun.
Yeah, beyond grateful, buddy.
Oh, man. Well, I'm super grateful for you both. You've had a massive impact into my career. Starting 10 years ago, indirectly, we met through our mutual friends, Rob and Kim. I joined their Jet Set Body Nutrition program. And this is something I don't actually talk about a lot. I went through my first transformation, which really gave me so much vision and life about entering the fitness industry, but it wasn't until I joined their nutrition program it gave me the confidence to open my own Fit Body Bootcamp. So I want to start there. Then a few years later, through Rob and Kim, we were introduced through the network marketing company Isogenics, which was awesome, and being part of that journey with you. And then in recent years, this last year, you launched the Dinner Series Mastermind, which is, I'm a huge raving fan.
I love that.
It's been just a whirlwind. In fact, part of the reason I rebranded the show was from the experience at your first dinner series. So just super grateful, long time coming. And I just wanted to thank you so much for being on the show.
That means the world to hear that.
Well, I have to say to everybody listening who doesn't get to spend time in person with you, that you truly, you really helped make the dinner series, because you in the room, so many people, you guys, we go around and we always ask for takeaways and shares from the room after different exercises that we do. And I swear your name is always mentioned 1 to 3 times, every single time. Bryce just helped me with this. I just got to connect with him and he just, changed my life with this. We have heard that in that room. And so for everybody listening, you have to know that this man makes such an impact whenever he's in the room with you.
Oh, well, thank you, Laura. I appreciate that. And it's just a reflection on the opportunity you've created. So. All right, well, we got a lot to cover. You guys are mega entrepreneurs. We'll start there. And I've had a storied business career, both for you starting in banking, for you starting in fitness. So I'm going to first start with you, Lori. I would love to hear your origin story, and for both of you, and then specifically, when you look back at your, origin story, starting your entrepreneur journey, what was the one big lesson that you've learned in that process?
Okay. I can already tell you the lesson, and then we'll go back and you'll hear the lesson throughout the whole thing. And that is that the big things start very small. They start with one person. They start with, a very small idea. They start with one of those little breadcrumbs. And so going back, I am from a small town in Upper Michigan where you have a Fit Body
We have a very successful Fit Body in Marquette, Michigan. Sean Clements.
Nobody knows where that is.
Woo.
That's wild.
You guys, I literally growing up didn't even have a Target or a Walmart. We had a Shopko and a Maurice's. We all wore the same dresses when we had an event, because there was we had one stoplight back in the day. So.
Oh, by the way, too, there's another even story. So Sean and his wife Shireen, who is the other co-owner, she's also a fitness model, which is how you started your journey.
I need to meet these people.
Marquette's churning out talent.
I must meet.
Marquette is the new epicenter.
Okay, I must meet this. Okay, we're going to do that. I must meet this person. That is too small of a world.
You've put me in touch with so many people. The least thing I can do is make that introduction.
Must meet. Okay, we're going to have so much to talk about. All right, so very small town, and I like to share that because you take a small town and you make it even smaller by, I was raised in a more restrictive religion where you could only hang around the people in your congregation. So I was not allowed to hang out with anyone outside of it. So there was about approximately 110 people in that congregation. And my family also really struggled with their weight growing up. So I became, there was a lot of anxiety. I was super self-conscious. I got made fun of for the short time that I went to school. I went to school through middle school, and then I was homeschooled through high school. But there was a lot of bullying. I was made fun of because I was overweight and my religion. And so for me, I had always had this like urge to be fit and be a fitness person. And I thought that if I was fit, like I would have confidence and I would stop getting, made fun of, and maybe I'd be popular and the boys would like me, all the things that you think about if you were, good looking and fit. So this just became like my North Star. I'm like, I'm going to be confident. If you're fit, you must feel confident. And because I just felt so opposite of that. And so at a really young age, I started doing my older sister's workout videos. And from there, I would always beg my mom to go buy me fitness magazines. Like if we were at the grocery store, I'd be like, would you, let's pick up these magazines. If you go and I'm not going with her, I'm like, could you just any fitness magazine? Because I wanted to learn about it. And there was a point in my life where I was sitting around the table with my aunts, and there was 4 of them. And I was like, I think I was talking about working out or whatever, like I wanted to be fit. And they said, well, good luck, because you're going to be fat just like us when you're older, because it's your genetics.
Yeah, it's the Baker way, right? Because last name was Baker.
They said it's the Baker way. It's just who you are. Like no matter what you do, because they had all dieted and done the thing, like this is just who you're going to be. And I remember at that very young age, and I want you guys to think about a time where like something in your body, like you rejected it. And I just fully remember rejecting that statement and going, I don't think that's true. And so every part of me this is why I was like seeking this knowledge in fitness magazines, is because I'd be like, okay, I'm reading this cover girl, Tracy or Stacy or whatever her name was at the time. I'm like, she doesn't, eat 3 desserts after dinner like we do. She, works out like this, and we don't even go to the gym. She does this cardio. So I was piecing that together.
Let me interject. Sorry to interject. But
yeah.
That's such a big aha, because profound, because I feel like a lot of people would actually just take that from identity and just make that identity their own. So what about your, I guess, knowledge or pursuit of fitness kind of made you reject that in that moment of time?
I think it was the clarity on our lifestyle being different. It was like, okay, even though I could have taken that on, there were parts of me that did take it on. I was like, I did, there was a big fear that is what I could become. But there was also a question of, but they're doing totally different things. So maybe if I got out of this environment, like I remember being like, as I got older, I was like, okay, I love them, but when I turn 18, like I'm leaving, because I can't overcome this. Like I would be gone all day long exercising and walking and doing all these things, and I'd come home and I'd be like, I couldn't fight the environment, no matter how hard I tried, no matter what I would consume. It was like I could do okay, but my environment, because it was so much more than me at the time, like because it was everyone around me, it would always end up breaking me down.
Sure.
And so that was a big awareness for me that I've carried into everything that I do, and why we do the dinner series and why we do these events is because your environment is stronger than your willpower. And so that was the key for me growing up, and why I got into entrepreneurship, why I, started a gym as soon as I could once I moved out and after we lost everything. But that's really like the basis of what I came from and where I came from, and why I'm passionate about community, and why I'm passionate about fitness, and why I'm passionate about entrepreneurship, is because money truly allows you to walk out of the situations and the groups of people that don't serve you anymore, and allow you to, be the person that you're supposed to be.
Amen to that. Now, if someone's listening or watching this right now and they're in that tough environment that you were, all right, and that's good on you for having the mindset to overcome that, because you could have easily taken that on. You said a little bit, but if someone's listening and watching this in that current perspective, in that situation, what is your single point of advice on how to get out of that? Okay,
so if you even have the inkling or curiosity or desire and idea that you could be something else, you absolutely 1,000,000% that is for you, and that's who you're supposed to be. Like that person or image that you see once in a while that flashes in your head that your life is supposed to be different, that is a gift. Like cling on to that as much as possible. Go and do the things. Listen to the Beyonce song at the stoplight, okay, guys? Because I know
you're doing it.
You're doing it, guys. But cling on to that as much as possible, and the key is to start. Like I said, big things start small. You want to start getting yourself into these other environments or with these people or listening to things that are going to expose you to the person that you want to be, like becoming the person that you want to be as much as possible. So whether you don't have the money for it right now and you can only do podcasts and books, like try to consume that more than you're consuming the negative. Try to watch a TV show if you're going to watch TV that's more positive, or maybe it's a story about someone who was, amazing, or, did all these things that you want to do. Like start consuming positive content and positive people and positive podcasts more. And then as soon as you can, either start your own little community, because when I was in Minnesota, this was in the very beginning, it started small. I would invite like 2 or 3 women who all had the same goals, and we would work out together. Like we just became a regular workout date, or we would have a regular coffee date, or I would start these little things like monthly where women would meet up and I would just make some random topic about, how to set our goals together. And it'd be like a once a month thing where I was like, I just need to start a community around me. So start really small, because you'll start to understand like where you should go and what's possible for you off of those. You need like all of these little trial moments.
Yeah.
To be like, what hit, what didn't, what did I love about this? What do people like to do? What do I need? And that's really where it all started.
Oh man, so gold. I mean, in my journey, like changing my environment, changing my community has made the world a difference.
It's everything.
Yeah, it's absolutely
It's why our
everything.
parents didn't want us to hang around like the bad kids at school.
Yeah.
Is because they know we will become them. And it's the same thing if you reverse it into people with great habits and people who have a great money mindset. You will become them if you hang around them.
And I think 2 things can be true. Like number one, in your situation, you were in a bad spot and you were like hungry to get out.
Yeah.
But for me, going back to the dinner series this past year, I was in a good spot. Like things are cranking, but I wanted to get to the next level. When I
Totally.
saw you launch this, I was like, you know what? If I get in new rooms, I'm going to meet new people. So it doesn't matter where you're at, whether you're in a bad spot or you just want to get to another level, change your environment with community, game changer.
Totally. I just want to add to, like, every time I've pivoted in my career, when I wanted to write a book, before I wrote a book, I didn't write books. I didn't have friends who wrote books. Like, they were in the fitness world. So when I wanted to get into personal development and start writing a book on personal development, I started hanging out with people who wrote books and who were in the personal development world. And that completely was the thing that helped me pivot very quickly. Like, get in the rooms where the people are doing what you want to be in the future. It's like, build the room for where you're going, not for where you're at right now.
Ooh, gold. All right, Chris, I want to give you the floor. And one of the things I love about you, you just have this, I want to say, factory installed business mind. I feel like you're a true visionary. You started your career in banking. So why don't you give us the backstory, and then really what's the big learning lesson from your journey?
It's funny. I actually started my career in the car dealership world. And then it went to banking. And the reason I had to start my career was I was booted out of college. I was 21 years old, and I was 2.5 semesters into college. I did not want to be there. Me as a kid, I was a dreamer in a small Midwest town. So like, I didn't feel like I fit in even as a kid. I dreamt about a big life. I dreamt about doing big things. When I was in middle school, I dreamt about being a businessman, whatever that was, right? There's no definition to it, but it was what I would daydream about. Yeah. And so, like, even as a child, I was the odd man out that knew I wanted to accomplish really big things. And so when, 25 years ago, the advice was, hey, go to college and get a good job, and that's how you have a good life. While everybody who was saying that meant well, it wasn't for me. But I fell for the pressure, and I, followed that path. Yeah. And so I did everything I could to sabotage it. I stopped going to class. I partied. I got in trouble. My very last semester in college, I didn't buy a single book. I didn't go to a single class. And yet somehow I was enrolled there. And that's when, at the end of that semester, they said, hey, you're absolutely out of here. And this is one of those schools that would take anyone as long as you pay them. So it was that bad. Now, I remember my parents were devastated. I mean, they thought my life was over. But I was excited because I thought my life was just beginning. I finally got to go out and participate in the world of business, in the world of entrepreneurship, in the world of like just making things happen, participating in the economy that I wanted to be doing all along. And so I went and I got a job at a car dealership because I loved cars. I was like, hey, there's a lot of opportunity there. So 21 years old, booted out of college, I get this job at a car dealership, and I learned 2 things there. I learned sales and I learned leadership. Ooh. And if you can learn sales and leadership, you can write your own ticket in life. You really can.
Amen.
If you can get really proficient at those 2 skills, there's nothing you can't figure out. Add to that what Lori said, putting yourself in the right rooms and around the right people, and you're going to absolutely smash it in life. Now, what happened was I spent about 1.5 years at the dealership, flew up through the ranks. Matter of fact, by the 4th month in a dealership with 30 people, I was the highest producing car dealer there.
21 years old.
21 years old. And then quickly moved up into what they call the F&I department, which is basically selling financing and warranties and all this stuff, and learned even more sales there. Then I got to run that department. I learned leadership, and they sent me away to a little leadership class, that kind of thing. And right about that time, when I had a lot of momentum there, all of my friends were starting to get into this big mortgage and lending boom that was happening back then. And of course, they're making a ton of money, and I wanted to make a ton of money. So I switched over to banking, and that's where you mentioned starting my career in banking. Except I wasn't qualified for that job. I was supposed to have a college degree. So I went in there and talked my way into that job that I was. When I showed up for the interview, and Lori, you know Todd, a guy named Todd who hired me, he said, "Hey man, listen, somehow you got this interview. I already kind of have someone picked out for it, but it was already scheduled, so let's just get to know each other." And by the end of the interview, he's like, "Screw that other guy. I'm hiring you. When can you start?" And so I started at a...
Why did that happen?
Yeah, why?
Unpack that.
I think charisma and certainty. I've always been able to, listen, I've had low points where maybe you're not feeling so great about your charisma or your certainty, but for the most part, I've always had charisma and certainty.
Yeah.
And I think those two things, the most certain person in the room is always going to win. And so if there's anything that you can start to work on, if there's anything that you can kind of perfect, work on your certainty when you're having a conversation. Work on your certainty when you enter a room. Work on your certainty when you're selling something or when you're making a deal.
How do you do that?
That's a great question. I think it was naturally instilled in me a little bit. My parents would put me around successful people, and they would correct me if I wasn't standing up straight or if I wasn't looking somebody in the eye, if I didn't give a good handshake, right? All the basic stuff.
Yeah.
But then creating that win that I did for myself by being able to go into the dealership and fly up to the top of the sales rankings right away, that gives you more certainty and that gives you a little more swagger, right? So you got to be able to go get really good at a craft, put your time in, even if it's a short amount of time. Like I put a lot of reps in trying to be good right away because I was excited about it. And that builds up your certainty. And so you take that win and you parlay it with another one, and when you can start to stack wins like that, you're going to quickly become the most certain person in the room. But in the beginning, before you stack those wins, it doesn't mean you can't be. It means that you have to arm yourself with knowledge. You have to arm yourself by looking good and feeling good. You have to arm yourself with, having high energy. You have to arm yourself with, put everything in your favor that you can before you've had enough time to go stack those wins.
You've also been really interested in people. Like even when I first met you and when I'm in rooms with you, you're always really present and interested in people. And I think
I was really interested in you when I met you.
Well, that might be it. I don't know if this is everyone, people. I'm just kidding.
But curiosity.
Yeah.
I believe, in my career, I think it's given me the ticket, right? So having a genuine curiosity in others, listening to your story, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, and I'd add one more thing too, because then, once I got into banking, I started as the lowest level loan officer that they had there, and then quickly went up to running a branch, and then a couple of branches in a district, then a whole division, had 1,100 people underneath me. And remember, I was booted out of college. I shouldn't have had those jobs. I shouldn't have had that career trajectory. And the reason why I did was, I think what you guys are saying, I was obsessed with finding the people that could teach me how to be better at each job. And I was willing to do the work to get better. I was willing to ask the questions. I was willing to seek out the mentor. I remember when I ran my first district, before self-development was cool, before that rah-rah shit was cool, I would pull together my whole district and I'd have a different kind of meeting. I don't know if you remember this, Lori, but I'd be like, babe, I want to teach them self-confidence. I want to teach them some self-development stuff. I want to, be able to have kind of a hype meeting, if you will, and get them feeling good about themselves long before that shit was popular.
Yeah.
And it paid off. And then I learned real quickly too, when I would seek out these people to get advice from, I'm like, you're good people to have in my corner. And I thought, how can I stack other good people in my corner? And this comes back to what we talk about today. The more that you can line up good people around you, the more that you can stack good people in your corner, then that's going to make up for any lack of talent you have. That's going to make up for any lack of intelligence you have, any lack of schooling, any lack of experience.
Because we both didn't graduate. So.
Yeah, exactly. Right? You didn't graduate high school. I got kicked out of college. A couple Midwest kids. But we've been able to make up for that with getting the right people to surround us and lift us up.
Amen to that. Well, love that. One thing, Chris, you talked about leadership, and I look at the framework. If you can lead, if you can sell, if you can market, that third skill, I mean, you can literally write your ticket in life. One of the principles of this show is teaching leadership.
Yeah.
I believe that leadership is always the problem, always the solution. I think we're in a leadership deficit right now. You see this with people's health and wellness. I mean, 80% of our society is either statistical obese, overweight, which means people are having a hard time through self-leadership. And my leadership framework is lead yourself, lead your family, lead your empire. You can't lead an empire or community before you can lead your family, even you, right? So both of you are world-class leaders. Chris, I'll ask to touch on you. What would you say from your perspective are some qualities and characteristics of strong leadership that you've acquired?
It's a great question, and I appreciate the compliment. I think I'm consistent, and I think I show up as the person that I hope other people will become if they're a part of our team. And what I mean by that, where that came from was when I was in banking, so I worked for the world's biggest bank at the time, HSBC. I had a couple of guys that were my boss's boss and my boss's boss's boss, that when they were in town or when they were around or when we were at a conference, they embodied and demonstrated what it looked like to be successful. And I don't mean like the fancy car or something like that. Remember Paul Elner, Steve Turner, shout out to those guys.
Totally.
They would be at the gym at 5 a.m., even though they probably didn't feel like it. And they were fit. So they led by example by being very fit. And they're charismatic. And they cared about you. They're present with you, but they're also firm with you and upheld some scary boundaries at the time, to be very honest.
Yeah.
So in other words, they demonstrated what it looked like to be a leader. And it made me say, I want to be like that. And so all I had to do was emulate what they were doing in my own world. Get up earlier, be seen at the gym with them, get into good shape. I remember looking around, and I hope this doesn't fall in the wrong ears. And if it does, I mean it as a thanks for helping me, I guess. But I remember looking around that banking industry, and a lot of my coworkers, a lot of people, they were not in good shape, and they didn't look good, and they didn't look healthy. And then I would look at Paul and Steve and a few other guys, and some of the guys getting promotions, and they were good looking, and they were fit, and they would work out, and they were kind of the cool kids club. And it was very easy to look and say, hey, which club do I want to be a part of? Like the rosacea face, pouring over my jeans individual, or the ones that are fit and the ones that are charismatic and the ones that are healthy that are getting all the promotions. And I'm not saying that's what gets you the promotion, but I think when you feel good and you feel healthy, then you do the right things that'll get you the promotions. And I also want to clarify, there was a point in that career where all of that unraveled. So I was on the trajectory, fastest, climbed the ladder faster than anybody else in that company. And everything was amazing. Feeling good, looking fit, working out, the whole 9 yards. Then the recession hit in 08, 09.
Oh, yeah.
And everything came to a screeching halt in the banking world. And everyone around me became miserable. And this is a good example of, when you have people around you that lift you up, things are great. When you have people around you that are miserable, it's going to pull you down a little bit. And the whole industry was pulled down. Everyone lost their jobs and everyone lost their bonuses. And I had to spend a year going from 7-8 years of rah and exciting and chasing down goals to waking up first thing in the morning, getting on an airplane, going to some random ass town like Rapid City, South Dakota, walking through the front door of the branch saying, hey, I'm here to shut you guys down today. I'm incredibly sorry. I'll meet with each of you one-on-one and answer any questions that you have. And I would do that till 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night when we got the branch closed down and talk to everyone. And then what would I do? Because I was miserable doing that.
People would cry in the office too.
Yep, did it to 1,000 people one by one, right? So what would I do? I'd go back to the hotel and I'd order cheeseburgers and I would drink and I would just self-soothe. And that quickly packed on 30 pounds. And I was the opposite of what I thought looked like and felt like a good leader. And then I started to lose my self-esteem. And then finally, after a year of doing that to everybody else, they came to me and they said, hey, you got two choices. You can have a demotion of a demotion of a demotion of a demotion and ride this thing out at a branch in Jersey, or you can have your severance package. I said, give me that severance package. I know something's got to change. I was miserable to Lori. I was miserable to myself. I was on the wrong trajectory. And I had to pull myself out of that environment in order to make any kind of change and get on the up and up again.
Thank you for that lesson, that vulnerability. One of the words that you said when you were attracted to the Cool Kids Club is demonstrate. They demonstrated strong leadership. And I think for me, leadership is demonstration. I always, teach my franchise partners, I don't have any magical powers. You don't have any magical powers. The best way you lead other individuals is you demonstrate through your own actions, and then you can have your following emulate that, which I think is gold. So I just want to reinforce that point because this meant a lot in my leadership journey. You can see it in yours.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Lori, how about you? From your perspective, what quantifies a good leader from your lens?
My journey of leadership has been so interesting because I didn't really ever see it until I saw my husband. So I had his version of what his leadership was to all of his guys at first, which was great, but also a little
Super
boiler
masculine.
room-esque.
Yeah.
So I had only, because my dad was, a bit of an entrepreneur. My mom stayed at home, didn't graduate from high school. So my first kind of work was just random. It was retail jobs or worked at a coffee shop. Didn't really think my life was going to equate to much. I thought I was going to be going door to door for the rest of my life talking about the Bible. That was the goal. And so for me, I didn't really understand leadership until I saw what it looked like with my husband, or when I started different personal development things. So I will say leadership was probably and still is, one of the biggest challenges for me. But I love it. So I think for me, when I now look for it, so I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to podcasts on leadership. I look to different people, mentors. I ask a lot about leadership. I'm always talking to Chris about leadership and how to lead. I have some really great people. I have Jackie Koch, who's my quote unquote sister-in-law. She's been in our family for 10 years. But I ask a lot of questions about what does a good leader do in this situation?
You're curious.
I'm very curious because I think that I'm gonna call on women for a second here, because I know, especially coming from the Midwest, we have a few things that also feel like a challenge when we're stepping into a leadership position in our roles or in our companies. I have the narrative of, in order to be, when you're a woman, to be a leader is also to be loved and to be liked and to be nice. And those things don't necessarily, those particular words sometimes don't work well when you have to do really hard things frequently. And so the challenge for me when we first started hiring people, I think we had 6 or 7 employees for a little while. And I felt like I needed them to like me. And it was do I need to hang out with these people? What does that look like? So, I learned the hard way with quite 2 or 3 of them in the beginning, where when they would leave, or when we would have to let them go, it wouldn't be a great way that they would leave. I feel like there were boundaries crossed, things were blurred. I wasn't clear, because I was dancing around things and not telling them the truth about why they were being let go, because I felt like if I really told them the truth, I was being mean. Right. And so the first thing I learned about leadership is clear is kind. And that changed my life.
Clear is kind.
Yep.
And I lead with that now. And I will actually say, I have these phrases that I call freedom phrases. And they're not necessarily freedom for them, they're freedom for me. It's if I start with this phrase, it will free me up to say what I need to say in a clear and kind way.
Like a little cue.
A cue.
Yeah.
So, starting off a hard conversation with, this is a really hard conversation for me. But I know that being clear and telling you the truth about, what's going on is going to be the best thing that we can possibly do to move into a quick solution, or help you grow, or us grow, or get you to where you need to go.
Why do you think that works for you? I have a thought in my mind, but I'm curious from your perspective.
I think from there, they know my intention. It's just it frees me up to go, I have a good intention about this. You may not understand it right now, but hopefully in the future you will get why this happened, and it's a learning moment, and it frees me up to be able to say what it is. Now, is it fun for me? No, but I call it the 10-second tidal wave, where it's the first 10 seconds are just oh my God, they're going to take you over. It feels like it's going to, maybe the tears will come because it's emotional, whatever it is. But I'm once you get past that, it's just all easy from there. It's you're on the other side.
Intentionality. That was actually what I was thinking, and you just hit it out of the park. So thank you for that.
I want to add one thing too. You say, hey, I don't know if I'm that good of a leader yet, or something I'm working on. You're a remarkable leader in life. The way that you stay healthy, the way that you stay fit, the way that you take care of yourself, the way that
self-leadership,
right? The way that you've been successful, the way that you're kind to other people, the way that you take risks, the way that you're consistent. All of these things make you an incredible leader of people in life. So just because you didn't have modeled for you, or just because you didn't have classes around, hey, what do you do in the workspace with 10 employees or with 20 employees or whatever, doesn't mean that you're not a great leader. It just means, sure, there might be a few technicalities that you're figuring out as you go, But I'd rather have somebody who's a natural leader in how they show up day to day, that has a couple tiny things to learn, than the other way around. Than someone who can recite everything from a textbook, but then they show up and they look like a sloppy piece of,
Oh, yeah.
So.
One thing that you said is the word kind, and I always like to differentiate, especially in leadership, but between nice and kind. Someone who's nice, from my perspective, will just kind of blow smoke, and they're just going to say all the quote-unquote nice things, but they're not going to tell you exactly how they feel. Where someone's kind, has the best intention at heart, but they're going to tell you when you have something in your teeth at dinner, and then that way you don't walk away and be like, oh my God, I cannot believe that, where a nice person would. So I think that's the way I internalize that, and I just think that was a very intentional word that I heard from you specifically about leadership and clarity.
You're a great bat in the cave partner. They'll always tell someone if they have a bat in the cave.
True. This is true. I came home from a podcast recently, and he was like, Lori, were you there the whole time? I was like, are you kidding me? I'm going to go talk to that person and be like, are you even my friend? Like, true.
They were being nice, not kind.
Yeah, they were being nice, not kind. Come on, help a sister out.
Love that. All right, next question about, this is a business development show, right? And businesses has a lot of challenges. And Lori, I'm going to speak to you. One thing that I admire about you is you're super successful, extremely credentialed, but you're also real, authentic. You very much share your vulnerable situations, which I think does an incredible job of connecting people with you. And you share about your challenges. So I want to talk a little bit about the challenges that you've overcome, whether in business or life. So can you think about, a big challenge or a big really adversity that you've had to overcome, and the learning lessons behind that?
I mean,
how long do we got?
There's been so many, but I'll share this one. And this might feel quick, but this was one of the hardest experiences of my life. And I can tell you right now, on the other side of it, I'm so grateful for it. So grateful. This is a whole other, I just want to write a book off of what this challenge did for my life. So I want to frame it with that. So if you're in a time period in your life right now where it is dark, you can't see the way out, your habits are slacking, you're drinking more, you're eating terrible, I was that very fit person who was like, oh, that'll never happen to me. Look, it happened again in my life not that long ago. This was 3 years ago. And I just didn't even recognize myself. Even after all of the accomplishments, all of the things, it's like we can slip back into those places. And, I can tell now that was for me, but I'll tell you, so in 2020, I had hit a place in my life where I was I had reached all of my goals. Small town girl coming from what I told you, not graduating. I had written a book. I'd done the events. We'd,
11 covers of magazines.
In network marketing, we were just all of my wildest dreams had come true. And when you do that, all of a sudden you can hit this place, especially if you are somebody who is a creator and loves to build things. And that's truly who I am at the core. I'm a builder and a creator. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, what am I supposed to do next? And I was like, do I write more books? What does this look like? Except the book journey for me felt really lonely. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do that. And I wasn't feeling challenged. And so, which is just so funny. Be careful what you wish for, everybody. So careful. I was like, I just really feel like in this life, I feel like I'm ready for my next big challenge. And I have always loved products. In Isogenics, I sold products, and I sold them so well because I loved them. I mean, if I had a piece of Lululemon at the time, let me just tell you how much money I would have made if we could have network marketed Lululemon. The amount of things that I sold, I shared, I'm a natural born saleswoman. If I'm obsessed with the product, you will buy, I will get you to buy these leggings. Okay.
Let's go. I don't need them, but okay. I'll take them.
So you want them already.
Yeah.
So in 2020, when I had finished my book and done all the things, I was like, okay, I'm calling in the next thing. What is that I want to do? I want to give myself a year to try to figure this out. And so I would ask myself this question: if I had all the time, if I had all the money, and if I had all the network in the world, what would I do? What would I be doing next? What sounds fun? And the reason why I think those three questions are really powerful is because a lot of times we limit ourselves and we make our next choice for what we want to do based off of our current circumstances and current skill sets. Mm-hmm. And you're capable at any time of changing all of that.
Yes.
At any time. And that's going to help you become a different person and make a decision based off of who you can be instead of who you currently are right now. Because I really believe that if you're someone who craves that next challenge and that goal, that your goal should make you have to create new skill sets and get a new network. Like that's what we've always had to do, right? So from that place, I was like, well, I don't just want to do more of the same. Like, I don't just want to do another book and make that bigger. I don't just want to do another course and make that bigger. That wasn't what I was craving. Some people do, but wanted something different. And so what came in for me is I was like, I love products. It's something that feels really natural. What could this be? So, I sit on it for like a year, and this thing comes to me because I wrote a book in 2017 about creating deeper relationships. So breaking through superficial friendships and how your network can help you reach your highest purpose. And that book did pretty good, but it didn't hit the mainstream that I wanted it to. Like, I really wanted this to hit the women who were, like, I would hear all the time complaining about their friend circles and they don't feel supported. And it taught you exactly how to create them and how to support each other. And so I'm like, okay, the book did great, but it still didn't really hit the mainstream. It hit more like the personal development crowd and all of those people, which was awesome. I was like, how can we hit that mainstream? Where are they connecting? What are they doing? What do I love? What do I want? What do I wish existed? And it kind of intersected at this like non-alcoholic rosé and a light wine spritz rosé. So I was like, okay, they're all connecting over like cocktails and going out, right? They're all just like meeting together and having wine nights and these things, and they're leaving feeling empty, hungover, crappy. They're gossiping, like all this stuff. What if we could create a product that would like not only make this experience better, like what if we made the wine lighter? What if their friends who wanted to kind of dabble in not drinking anymore could have a can that also fit in, that didn't look like it was a non-alc, so they all just didn't get the questions and all the things. And then what if I put 3 questions on the back of the can that by chance they looked at it, it was 3 questions that would help them get the answers that they actually wanted to leave with, like the whole point
Questions
of why
to connect over.
Questions to connect over. This was kind of like before the whole card question, like whole thing was a thing, right? And so everyone loved the idea when I started like bouncing it off of people. And I was like, I think this is the idea I'm going to go with. I created a deck, raised $2 million from 54 female investors because they were like, I love this idea. Like, let's go. Then the pandemic hit. And there was something, right? So fun. And there were so many lessons that I learned from this, but I'll tell you, like, I couldn't get it to the finish line. Like, we spent $1 million and the manufacturing companies were shutting down. There was a pandemic, right when we thought we had it figured out, like the licensing for selling alcohol online, like it was like, well, you're kind of operating in the gray. You need to talk to this attorney now. And things would take like 3 months at a time or 6 months at a time to like get these answers on how can we sell this online? What does this look like? It was just all very unclear because of all of the red tape. And we learned like a lot of those companies, they're operating in the gray. That's why nothing was ever clear. We're like, why isn't this clear? Well, because none of it is clear. And then as I went down that road, there were so many lessons that I learned. So we'll start plucking the lessons now because, as I was in it and not getting it to the finish line, I think the crazy part about that is you can be so excited about this idea. And, I knew that I was supposed to do a product and I knew what the mission was. So the mission was to connect women and also have women feel so a part of a company that a lot of the friends in my life were feeling a little bit like capped in their lives and careers as well. And so when I told the story of not just what we were going to do, but also, becoming a part of this kind of helps you learn about what is possible for you, because it was almost like a mastermind they were entering on. If you're an investor in this, you're going to see the whole inside. You're going to get the investor updates. You're going to know what this looks like. You're going to have inside access. Like, we do calls and different things even now with the company that I'm in so that we can bring these people along. So there was such a mission behind this. But when we couldn't get to the finish line, the awareness of, oh my God, I just raised money from my best friends, my mentors, celebrities, like the feeling of, so my worst nightmare and the thing that I have to get over in this lifetime is disappointing people and feeling like if I disappoint them, I have no value and people won't love me. And so it's a true survival thing, right? Like, oh my gosh, if I'm rejected by the tribe, like I feel like I'm dying.
Yeah, I can relate. Yeah.
And it was like a death. It was like telling them, hey, this isn't working. Like, this failed.
I lost the investment,
Right.
lost the vision.
Yeah, half of it. Luckily, she was a great steward of it, so she still had half of it left to pivot.
but the pivot hadn't come to me yet. So
all she saw was a dead end.
you're just in a dead end and you're like, do I just let this thing die or do I try to revive it or what does this look like? And this is the first lesson. You must talk to people who have been through this before. And if I would have talked to them sooner, I would have saved myself 3 months of being up for 3 hours every single night with massive panic attacks and anxiety and like literal meltdowns. Like I've never had meltdowns like that, complete breakdowns. And it's like, I would not have had to go through all that and I would have pivoted so much faster because what happened when I started opening up about it to people who had been through it, they're like, this is not a big deal. This happens all the time. Like the products that you see out in the world are not the products that they started as. Like, you know, some of the biggest things, I think BlackBerry started as something completely different. Like I can name a million companies that started as a completely different product even before it went to launch. So we're blessed with these breadcrumbs that we don't realize as the journey, as they start getting out into the world, they morph, they change. The industry tells you, people tell you, like, is this a product that is needed? What do you need to pivot into? Like, what does this need to be? And so the idea that you're getting right now is just a breadcrumb. You have to be so flexible and so willing to say, what could this turn into? Okay, how could I shape this? How is the mission the same, but the product can be different? It doesn't matter. So that was one of the first lessons I learned is say it faster to people who have done it. They will just say, you know, it was, this is not a big deal. Pivot faster. Talk to this person now. Here's how you're gonna, here's how you're gonna pitch this to the investors. Here's the story you're gonna tell. Like it was mind blowing to me that men pivot all the time. Like it was a bunch of guys who were like, yeah, so this is normal.
Well, it reminds me of the great Jeff Bezos of Amazon. He's famously quoted saying, be rigid with the vision, but flexible with the details.
Totally.
And that's really just a masterclass in that.
Yeah. So that was a big one for me. Just talk to people. This is why community is everything. Like it would have saved me from all of that.
Yeah.
And it would have been a much faster process. So, but now I know that that's also why I went through that is to tell people like, don't suffer when there's people with answers. Like someone could tell you, oh, that's totally normal. Like what you're stressed out about is actually the day-to-day of business.
How did you get through that in the moment though? Now it's easy. You can look back 4 years later and say, okay, there's a lesson there, et cetera. But like, if you remember going through that, losing money, like how did you cope with that? How did you deal with that?
So many conversations and voice notes with close friends, and with mentors. When I finally started opening up about it, I was like, I'd be on a walk and I'd be like, to my friend Tara, hey Tara, I am like it is a heavy day today. Like I'm just feeling crazy. Like I'm feeling ashamed. I feel like I can't show my face online. Like, all of these different things. And it was just like the back and forth of someone breathing life back into you. And so many people, like my husband, like we went on so many walks. We walk every single day. And just the constant, him breathing life back into me, him like, you need to talk to this person. You need to go talk to this person. It was truly the verbal processing and connection with human beings that kept me moving through it. So as it would come up, I'd talk about it and move through it. Mm-hmm. A lot of, honestly, so much prayer. I was like, God, I know you are putting me through this challenge for a reason. Like, give me the strength to just even hold, or you take it today. Like, I can't take it today. You need to take this and like, just show me why this is happening. So a lot of prayer, a lot of people.
Well, thank you for your vulnerability. They're massive lessons for audience as well. I'm going to shift gears to Chris, but one word that you said was connection. That's how you got yourself out of that quote unquote proverbial mess. I feel you guys are master connectors, master relationship builders, master networkers. Just, through the events that I've seen you produce, through the people that I've been able to be introduced through your network. I mean, just, viewers, I've been personally introduced through Dean Graciosi, Brandon Bouchard, just to name a few from these two people right here. So I want to start there. Chris, last month, and both of you actually taught at the Legacy Tribe Mastermind that Bedros and I run, which is a business development coaching program.
Such a great group.
Thank you.
It was so fun.
You guys are awesome. And Chris, kind of shifting towards connection.
Yeah.
The formula that you taught was G plus R equals RC. Generosity plus reciprocity equals relationship capital.
Yep.
I want to give you some space to be able to provide our audience the insight of where that formula came from. And it's a story about, your new business and venture. And I would just love for you to be able to share that and also the learning lessons throughout that journey.
Yeah, so it's funny. The formula came from me simply saying, hey, wait, how can I package this in order to give it to people in a little bit cleaner way? Because I know this is really important. But if you listen to it, right, generosity plus reciprocity equals relationship capital, it's really quite simple.
Yeah.
The more generous you are to people on a regular basis, and don't get caught up in money generosity, that's one form, but there's your time, your knowledge, your leadership, all these things, right? Even just sharing someone's post is a act of generosity. So the more generosity that you display on a regular, consistent basis starts to build up reciprocity. And when you add up all this generosity and reciprocity, it turns into relationship capital. And I always say relationship capital is the most important capital that you can possibly have, far beyond good old-fashioned capital, like money. Because when you've got money, things are great. When you don't have money, capital, things are really tough. Mm-hmm. But when you have relationship capital, whether things are good or bad, you can still win. You can still pull yourself out of a hole. Like, think about it. If you didn't have a pot to piss in, but you had a ton of relationship capital built up, what could you do? You could finally start calling in a couple of favors. You could finally start asking for a little bit of guidance. You could finally ask for, hey, could you share this new idea of mine? Could you invest in this new product of mine? And that's really what I did when I thought of my company, Frello. It came from a real life act of generosity.
Which, by the way, I'm just going to kind of preface here. This story is just world class. It inspired me. I'm interested in investing with you, not only from the business opportunity, from the story alone. So
I
continue
appreciate that. That means the absolute world. Well, this life-changing business that we're building came from an act of generosity, and then the means to be able to do it came from the reciprocity and relationship capital that I had built up. So here's kind of what happened. 2020, it's funny, our 2020 stories. A lot of stuff went down in 2020.
For everyone.
I was sitting there scrolling on Instagram, and a lot of people are having tough times in 2020, obviously. And I get a lot of DMs. When you have a brand that's around generosity, you get tons. I'm talking 50 to 100 DMs a month probably of people saying, hey, here's my hardship. Could I have $500? Here's my hardship. Could I have $1,000? And so because I get so many, we had made a personal policy that we're not going to give money in the DMs because you don't know what's real, you don't know what's fake. Despite having that personal policy, I just got a feeling like open this message and answer this guy's request. And I don't care how dumb that sounds. Do with that what you may. It was like a feeling that came down through my head into my heart. So I literally opened this DM, and as a landscaper, he's like, hey, Chris, I listen to your show. I'm grateful for everything that you put out there. I'm in a really tough jam, man. I am 2 payments behind on my truck. And if I don't find a way to get $680 like yesterday, they're going to repo my truck. And if they repo my truck, I'm going to lose my business. And if I lose my business, worse yet, I've got 2 great guys that work for me. They're going to lose their jobs as well. So is there any way that you could lend me $680? And, just following that feeling and feeling bad for the guy, I'm like, hey, listen, stranger, I won't lend you $680. I'll give you $680. And all I ask in return is that you work really hard to put yourself in position to do this for somebody else one day down the road. I believe in you. So I PayPal this guy $680. I don't even think I told you. And
no, but nothing surprises me.
Yeah.
And by the way, he was a landscaper, so I think there was a little bit of a kinship there.
Yeah, because I did landscape construction back in the day.
Oh, copy that.
So, I PayPal this guy $680, and I think I'll never hear from him again. And about 2 months later, he slides back into my DMs. And he said, hey, Chris, I just want to let you know what you did for me that day. He said, I took the money, I got current on the truck, and those guys kept their job, and that's great. But far more than that, when you said all you wanted in return was for me to work hard to put myself in position to do this for somebody else one day, that lit a fire under me like I have never felt before, to the point where here I am 2 months later telling you that I have gotten so many new landscape accounts that I am buying a second truck and hiring 2 additional guys, like doubling the size of his company. Now, $680, I don't want to belittle it. I understand. It can be a lot of money at times to people. But in the grand scheme of things, to double a business and add jobs to the economy instead of subtracting jobs from the economy, holy shit. I became obsessed with, wait a minute, this tiny bridge could help a lot of people. How do I matchmake all the people like him that have an urgent need that would actually do something with it if somebody helped them out for a minute, and all the people like us that would be willing to make a bet on them? And then how do I incentivize people like us to do it on a regular basis? Because generosity is great, but there's a lot less generosity in the world as a motivator than you would actually probably assume. And that became the two-sided marketplace of Frello, which is people that have an urgent need, people that'll lend to that urgent need, and moving the money back and forth. And this two-sided marketplace that we're about to launch is literally going to help the exact guy, the exact metaphor, the landscaper that made me obsessed with this to begin with. So here's what this story has to do with your question. Number one, I wouldn't have had this idea for this billion-dollar company that I want to build without an act of generosity. Number two, when it came time for me to solve this problem, I knew, like, visually I knew how I wanted to solve this problem, but in terms of execution, tech is not my thing. I mean, my little brother, you know, Nick, he has to come over and like plug our TV back in if it's not working.
We've learned now, we're like, let's unplug it first.
Yeah. Let's not suffer the embarrassment. Let's just go try the plug first. Being that bad at tech, but knowing that this was going to be a tech solution, I had to tap into my network of relationship capital that I had built up. And I went to my now business partner, Matt, who had been a friend for 5-6 years. I said, Matt, I know you're just finishing up selling your tech company, and I know you get to keep your team. Here's the vision. Is there any way that you'd do this with me next? And honestly, he wasn't looking for another thing. And he was really burnt out from the due diligence of having a big 9-figure exit. A lot goes into that, right?
Yeah.
But he loved the idea. And he said to me, if you can win my team over, we're in. And so I got them all on a Zoom call, and I pitched them the vision, and they loved the altruistic nature of it. And so we've been off to the races building this thing for 2 years ever since. But I would not have that person and therefore this team without first having that relationship capital with somebody like Matt. But it goes further than that. I didn't want to rely on Matt to fund the whole thing. And I certainly didn't want us to sink millions and millions and millions of dollars into this ourselves. Although Matt threw a nice chunk in, we threw a nice chunk in. We knew that we wanted to raise capital from other people to help bring this dream to life, because it's a really big, expensive dream to bring to life.
Oh, yeah.
And
it's so complex.
Oh, my God.
Holy smokes.
Honestly, you know the old saying, like, ignorance is bliss?
Yeah.
If I had known what I was getting into, I wouldn't have started it. So ignorance really is bliss. Thank God you don't, because now here we are about to launch, and it feels like $1 trillion, but it didn't feel that way the whole entire time. But that's not the point. The point is, we wanted to raise capital, and we wanted to raise what we call strategic capital, not just people that could write checks. We wanted to have people involved that had skin in the game, that because they had a check in the game, they'd be willing to share it upon launch, and they'd be willing to promote it, and they'd be willing to add expertise that might otherwise cost us a lot of money. And so we went out and we got these incredible A-list entrepreneur investors that, you know, are well known for having their own companies, and painted the vision to them. And because I have built up great relationships with them, right, that relationship capital, some of them said, hey, man, I'm in as a favor. Others said, hey, man, I'm in because this is the best idea I've ever heard. Others said, hey, I'm in just because this sounds like a really cool, wild adventure for us to go on together. Yeah. And we were able to fund the first entire part of our tranche in record time, really, with these strategic investors, because I had built up all of that relationship capital without ever asking for anything in return over all those years leading up to that.
That is a world-class story. So many learning lessons around this. And Chris, I mean, this is just the staple of, I feel like, your success, the foundation of both your success, coming with the giving hand, the reciprocity factor. So many takeaways. I appreciate your share.
I appreciate that.
All right. Last big kind of topic that I want to talk about, and I'm just so inspired because both of you have been extremely successful independently, but also too from a collaboration perspective. And you know, the fitness business that I run, Fit Body Bootcamp, there's a lot of times where couples will go at it together, right? Which can be really, really good, but also has some challenging parts as well. So I want to just, you know, provide the platform, but to seek your true, honest advice. What's your advice for couples that are going to be launching a business together? And then what's been the most rewarding part of the experience in terms of your collaboration, but also too the most challenging part, and want to get the good, the bad, the ugly. So Lori, I'll look at you first and just really want to kind of get some insights from both of you.
Yeah, babe, what's the most rewarding part?
Well,
on the hot
days
seat.
You're not with him. I'm just kidding. So I would say, you know, going back to the first times we really started working together, I'm actually going to talk about the network marketing times, because in that when you came home and really started supporting what we were doing with that, because it started blowing up.
How long, sorry to interject, how long was that? Because you had the vision for it, but what was the delta by the time Chris was like, all right, I'm on board, let's go?
2 years, probably.
Yeah, I think so. When he
a year and a half.
When he really came into it, and I think what can happen is when you're coming together. A lot of times, like you guys don't know what you're both good at yet if you haven't worked together yet. So you're learning even what your roles are. And the faster that you can get into like the roles and know exactly what tasks you're doing and support each other within those roles and respect each other within those roles and let someone totally own it. So I think that's the most important thing, because when we were in network marketing, for me, I was really good at being like top of funnel, bringing the eyeballs in, like getting people in, getting people signed up. I was a horrible coach. I'm like really bad with one-on-one. I'm one-to-many. Like I want to talk to the masses, but a lot of that, I really, and this is just pure honesty, guys, I wanted the credit for coaching, but I was bad at it and Chris was good at it. And so he'd be up on, he'd be getting all the credit like on stage and people would be thanking him. And I struggled with that in the beginning. I was in my early 30s and I was like, man, I love him. And it's hard to like not get any of that credit because it was kind of like I was the person who brought him in and then I was hands off, you know what I mean? So when those people would win, I didn't feel a part of it. And
even though you brought them to the table.
Even though I brought them in. Yeah. And so there was a part of me that I would feel like, okay, well, I'm going to try to coach and I'm going to try to take ownership of this too. I'm bad at it. Don't try to take ownership of it. This was my first lesson on we're a team. If he is winning, I am winning. It doesn't matter if I get the credit for it. It doesn't matter what happens after that. If we can talk amongst ourselves and really understand that this is something we built together, that was such a lesson for me of it doesn't matter who gets the credit on your team. It doesn't matter. You don't need the credit. I think the best leaders in the world do not need the credit. We can know what we did and we can, celebrate that person really hard and know that there's some other, if you're still like, oh, well, I kind of want the credit. I really believe there's some sort of universal law that, trust me, it will come back to you in some other form. So that was a really big lesson for me is figure out your roles, own your roles, respect each other, learn how to talk to each other within that, because it's really easy to be short or temperamental with your partner, and that will be the death of you. Learn how, take the time to say, hey, this isn't working for me, for both of you. How could we talk to each other better? This is how you could say it better. Because we were real heated a lot in the first couple of years and had to learn a new language. We were speaking two totally different languages.
How long did it take you to kind of iron that out? And what was there a big aha, or was there something that really allowed you to smooth out that?
We're still working on it. Was there a big aha? Yeah, a breaking point. I didn't want to work with him anymore.
Yeah, there was a big aha when we said, listen, we just need, do you want this? Yes. Do you want this? Yes. Okay, so if we both want it, where's the pain point? And the pain point was communication. And so we said, okay, where's it going wrong in communication? And I brought home from the banking world an extremely direct, masculine, fastest route to a message possible type of communication.
Yeah, you're super direct, but clarity is kind.
Absolutely. And Lori was in a phase of I want to manifest it and I want it to, be able to come to me and I want to be.
It was working, okay?
Well, I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying you couldn't be more opposite, right? Right. And that's where the rub was communication styles. And it wouldn't matter what I had to say to her, and it wouldn't matter if it was correct. All that mattered was if I was saying it in a way that it could land on
delivery.
Her. Yeah. And delivery was everything. And she pointed that out. And so I said, all right, I can swallow that. Why don't we kind of role play? Why don't we kind of practice? Lori, when I have to bring up the goals around this launch and they're not going well. Lori, when I have to bring up the finances. Lori, when I have to bring up this thing. How do you want me to say it to you? And when do you want me to say it to you? And when do you not want me to say it to you? What are the bad times to bring this up? And then she would tell me in a role play form, it would be easier for me to take this on if you would say it like this. And then I'd love to tell you that that was as easy to me, okay, great. I'm saying, no, I'd kind of poke fun of it, okay, I'd mock it a little bit. And of course that caused nothing but more problems. And I realized, okay, she's given me the answers to the test here. Don't be a dumbass. All you have to do is what she's asking you to do.
Yeah, take the answers and apply.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that was probably the biggest game changer going from breaking point to like, okay, we can do this.
So, Chris, what would you say your recommendation for someone listening to this or watching this? And you gave a little bit of that context, but what would your strong recommendation before jumping in with their spouse?
Okay, so I'm going to take it away from communication. I'm going to say this. My recommendation is maintain separate lives. Like you can't, if you're going to work together in the same house, on the same business, having the same topics, going to battle every single day, you're going to become very uninteresting to each other because you already know what happened all day.
Yeah.
You already know what happened in the other person's life.
Yeah.
So you've got to do a good job of being like, babe, I'm working at the workspace. You can work here. You've got to do a really good job of, I do a great job of having guys' trips and guys' nights, and she does a great job of having women's masterminds and women's, weekends, so that she can turn to other people for some of her needs and not count on me to be the be-all, end-all for all needs and vice versa. You cannot count on your partner, even if you're not in business together, you cannot count on your partner to be everything for you. They can fulfill some needs, but not all needs. You need a group of people outside to be able to do that.
I feel like that really is when you get to a place where you want that person to be everything for you. And it's really easy, especially if you're best friends like him and I. Like we just love spending time with each other. But it has made our marriage so much better, so much more fun. Like I can't wait to hear what he learned from his guys' trips or from the dinner that he went to or from this thing that he went to by himself and learned while I'm out in the world going and doing something else. Like it just, when you're relying on in the beginning, because I was more, not anymore. I thought it was who I was, but it's really not. I thought it was more introverted.
You thought you were introverted?
I thought I was very introverted, but it was because of kind of how I was raised.
Oh, sure.
And I just, some things that happen and you become more introverted because it's a form of protection. So I challenge anyone who's an introvert to say you're just protecting yourself. You just need better boundaries.
I would never have thought that. My first impression always has been like, you're very great with people, highly extroverted and great connector.
No, you could ask anyone like growing up, they're like, I don't even know who you are anymore. Like it's just totally different person. So, when Chris and I were first together, he was like my everything. And it was like, he was the person who gave me advice. He was my best friend. I didn't have any friends. I didn't have any girlfriends. So like, I didn't like when he left. I just always wanted to be with him. And that causes a lot of stress on a partnership because he can't talk me through some of the challenges that I'm going through because he thinks in a totally different way than I do. Like, for example, I want to verbal process the crap out of everything. Like if there's something that's bothering me, I'll let you have that. If there's something that's bugging me and it's like, let's say I found out like a friend was talking about me and it really hurt my feelings. Like I need to go on a walk and talk about that for like 2 hours with a friend. I need to like get that out. I need to like swear. I need to be irritated. I need to say how I'm hurt every which way from Sunday. And he wants to be done with it in 1 minute. Like who
it's
cares
not that
about
I want to
her?
be done with it. It's that I see a solution.
Yeah, he's like, who cares about her? She's an idiot. Here's what you should do. And I'm just like so deeply hurt,
you
right?
You gotta process it.
And so I need a girlfriend for that. Like I don't even bring that stuff to him anymore because it irritates him. And I know what's going to irritate him. And now I'm like, oh, I know, my friend Lindsay over here, she's going to love this. She's going to help work me through it. Like we're going to have we're going to bond over this. It's going to be great.
Have you seen the YouTube video I just saw this morning, Nail on the Head?
No.
Oh my goodness. It is unbelievable. It reminds me to the T. It's a husband and wife. They're talking. She has a nail in her head, like a physical nail in her head, talking about how the challenge, she doesn't know what's going on, this, that, and the other. And her husband's saying like, there's a nail in your head. And she's like, no, I just want to talk about my feelings, this, that, and the other. It's absolutely hilarious. You have to Google it. There's like,
I got to see this.
There's 50 million views on it. Anyways, it reminds me of that so much.
Yes. And so women tend to be, not all, but a lot of us tend to be verbal processors. And what we're doing is we're trying to process that with a husband who's like, here's the solution right here, except we don't feel that way. Like we need to go through all of those feelings. And so there's such a miss there that we can get irritated with each other and it drives us apart, where there's so many things that I've learned now. I know exactly what to go to him for. I know exactly what conversations to have with him. And now if that person talked about me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on a walk with my friend Lindsay. I'm going to bring the conversation back to him so he knows what's still going on in my life. And I'm going to say, hey, here's what happened. Here's the solution I came to. Then we kind of talk about it. And that's a great conversation between us. Like, I've already solved it. I'm not going to get mad at him over that. So I've learned so many different things like that. Even in business, I'm like, ooh, I'm not bringing this one to him yet because I need to go through this problem first. I'm not going to bring it to my husband, because he's just going to give me this solution that doesn't feel like a solution right now. So
he's going to give you the solution. Hey, babe, just take the nail out of your head.
Yeah.
But you want to process that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly. So that's been huge for us.
I love that. Well, number one, that's incredible coaching advice, first and foremost, for our audience. And number two, it makes so much sense now from my perspective, because when I look at you and your brilliance, I both see two really independent people, but also people that collaborate. It's the dichotomy. And so I appreciate that share, and I also appreciate the lesson. All right, friends, I still have a half a page of notes, but we have to catch dinner with our friend Bedros. So we're going to have to, I guess, schedule another
We'll do a part two.
Yeah, there we go. This has been awesome. So grateful for you both and your time and your wisdom you've been able to provide. My last question being that the title or the name of this podcast is the CEO Show, the Chief Executive Officer Show. So Lori, ladies first, what does it mean to you to be a CEO?
I think so much of our conversation, it's become even more clear. It is leading yourself first. Really stepping into the person that you want to be, lead yourself first, because from that, you're going to be able to teach everything you had to teach yourself to everyone else.
Love it. Chris?
For me, a CEO is responsible for two things and only two things. That is maintaining the vision and assembling the team. And where people go wrong is they want to be the CEO, they call themselves a CEO, but they're also acting as their own assistant, and they're also acting as their own customer service person. They're also acting as their own email marketer, and right? And then they wonder, why can't I get anywhere? It's because as a CEO, you have two responsibilities. Keep up the integrity of the vision. Don't let anybody sway from what the vision is. Keep all eyes on the target, and then assemble the team that will deal with everybody doing everything else, so that you have the energy to do the high-level things of keeping the eyeballs on the target, raising the capital, doing the more high-level things instead of being in the weeds, answering your emails and doing all those stuff.
So good. I should have gone second.
So good.
I really had the lower hand here because you get to listen to my answer.
Oh, no, you can go
first.
again.
I'm just kidding.
So good. And I actually gleaned so much from both of you on that. Friends, we'll put your social and handle in the show notes, but in the case that our audience hasn't connected with you and they want to, Lori, what's your contact? And then Chris will ask you.
Everything just at Lori Harder on Instagram. Oh, and I have a podcast too, so Earn Your Happy. It's where I spend a lot of time.
Love it. Chris?
Yeah, find me at Chris W. Harder on Instagram, or I guess all socials. And my show is The Chris Harder Show.
Awesome. Well, friends, this has been awesome. I've learned a lot, so connected so well. And first and foremost, I want to thank you for being on the show. Thank you for your time. But most importantly, thank you for your care, your compassion, the way you show up, the way you connect people, and most importantly, your boldness. You live greatly. You live and follow your dreams. And I'm just so appreciative of that. And I want to acknowledge you for that.
I want to acknowledge you right back for that. Everything that you just said, you could hold up a mirror and it would be applicable to you. You're an incredible friend. You're an incredible leader. You're an incredible inspiration to us and to other people out there. You're an incredible example to follow. So this is just one example of three people around the table that chose to support themselves with really great people that are going to help add fuel to each other's rocket ships.
So
Chris and Lori Harder, thank you guys both. Friends, I know you got a ton of value out of this episode. My ask is, if you did, drop your biggest takeaway in the comment. That would mean a lot. And remember, adversity is your advantage. We'll see you in the next episode.